All right, everyone, back for a short video lecture here. I think this is the 7th video, and it's on reducing our impact. So thinking back on the past 2 video lectures, we talked about how humans have an impact on the landscape, and we can do our best to help reduce this impact through either in situ conservation or ex situ conservation. So in situ conservation, an example of an in situ conservation is protected areas. And in situ conservation is the maintenance of wild organisms within their natural habitat. So they're staying in their original space, and we're protecting that area to help them thrive and continue on. And we can do this through national and provincial parks. We have a variety of levels of protected status in Alberta, from the most protected being the wilderness areas or ecological reserves to the least protected being provincial recreation areas. And you can see how much we enjoy our recreation because we have 208 provincial recreation areas, whereas only 3 wilderness areas and 15 ecological reserves. So wilderness areas are pretty much a protection status where the landscape is supposed to be pristine. There's no facilities. People can only walk in and walk out. There's no driving up to them. And you're supposed to just stay on the trail. Nothing can be taken from these areas as well. It's supposed to be left as is. Whereas in your wildland provincial parks or natural areas, you typically can have activities in this area. So like you could do backcountry camping or hiking through the area, some skiing, cross-country skiing, not like a recreational facility skiing slope, but you can cross-country ski through. And sometimes you can even drive up to these areas. And then for your provincial recreation area, that's where you have like your huge ski facilities and resorts. You can go quadding, you can go RVing and camping. There's a lot of facilities in place like visitor centers and facilities like washroom facilities, and there's a lot more maintenance that goes into maintaining these areas for public use. And so the area is not really that protected because humans are still allowed to have a bit of an impact on the landscape. But they are protected from industrial use. And so, yeah, we go from most protected to least protected. These are some images of different protected areas within Alberta. Just to the west of here, the top image is from the Peter Lougheed Provincial Park. The bottom left is from the Kananaskis Country Recreation Area. The middle bottom image is from the Elbow Recreation Area, and the bottom right is from the Elbow Sheep Wilderness Provincial Park. Another example of in situ conservation in protected areas is the Yellowstone to Yukon project, which is a project that hopes to connect Yellowstone to Yukon through a bunch of corridors of protected areas for animals that have these huge ranges. So like grizzly bears or wolves or caribou that have these large corridors that they need to travel through and that they can migrate safely through. Another form of in situ conservation is restoration programs. One of these programs that was previously mentioned in another video lecture is the Swift Fox Restoration Program. We extirpated the swift fox from Canada in 1928, and they are now slowly recovering because they were reintroduced into southern Alberta and Saskatchewan. And again, we aren't letting the actual specific location of the restoration program made publicly known because we want to make sure that these species are left undisturbed for as long as possible so they can regain their population. And they're very cute as well too. And you can also, there's in situ conservation through purchased land. So giving habitat back in the form of naturally protected areas that isn't owned by the government. It's privately owned land that is used for protective purposes. And an example of that is Ducks Unlimited. They protect a large area of wetlands. And in situ conservation also has resource use policies. So there's the Species at Risk Act, which we mentioned before, and the Wildlife Act, which protects endangered or threatened animals from being hunted or captured, or from plants from being picked or transplanted. And in these images here, there's a list of the Alberta's endangered animals. And at the bottom, those are Canada's threatened or endangered animals that are protected under the Species at Risk Act. And actually these numbers at the bottom here are from 2014. And since 2014, there have been 72 additional species that have been added to this list. This list includes anything from mammals, birds, reptiles, fish, arthropods, various plants, mosses, and lichens. So it's very vast and covering different species. We can also reduce our impact through ex situ conservation. So ex situ conservation is conservation of an organism outside of its natural habitat. So the organisms are leaving their original space in order to protect them. And this can be done either through seed or sperm banks or zoos and a captive breeding program as well. A lot of you guys did presentations on these two topics here, and we will be posting some of the presentations on D2L for you guys to be looking into and exploring and finding out more information yourselves on these topics. This was just a general overview. Yeah, that is pretty much in situ and ex situ conservation. That's the end of this lecture video, and we have one more, and it's going to be on selecting desirable traits. Please let us know if you have any questions, and thank you for watching.